welcome to my channel. I'm a Central Texas gardener in Zone 8B, and in today's video I am so excited to share with you my early spring garden. I have lots of early bloomers, and I also have some things coming out of dormancy. I also have a tool I want to share with you at the end of this video that has been invaluable to me, and so I hope you guys enjoy it. It is morning time in the garden. Lots of things are coming out of their dormancy, and I'm so excited to share them with you. So I had to start this tour with these beautiful redbud trees. If you're seeing these trees with these beautiful pink purple flowers throughout your Texas landscape and you're wondering what they are, chances are you're looking at a redbud. Now, there's many varieties of redbud through all of the United States, but the two that I have behind me, this one is a Texas redbud and this one is a forest pansy. Now, the Texas redbud is more ornamental in size, about maybe 15 to 20 feet in height, versus the forest pansy can get a little bit taller, maybe up to 30 feet in height. The Texas redbud has this beautiful chartreuse leaf once its flowering is done, and the forest pansy has more of a purple foliage. Now, the forest pansy's purple foliage tends to green up quite a bit as it gets hotter. And I will also say that the forest pansy is not quite as sun tolerant. It looks pretty sun scorched by August. So really the one that I have seen that has performed the best in my landscape is this Texas redbud. Now, I have heard that there is a cross between these two redbuds called a Merlot. And this has sort of that purple foliage of the forest pansy, but maybe more sun tolerance like a Texas redbud. I've never seen this tree. I don't have an experience with it, but that might be something you also look into if you are considering something like a forest pansy. This is a crossvine, and this is a flowering Texas native that is also evergreen. This particular plant can get quite tall, up to 50 feet in height. And it is self-clinging, though I have the two crossvines that I own supported at their base with a trellis. They flower primarily late March, early April, and I don't know if you can tell, but this plant is full of buds. And so that's when they put on their biggest show. They have these yellow to orange trumpet-shaped flowers that hummingbirds absolutely love. So they're a great early nectar source for many pollinators. Couple of cons, like I said, they are self-clinging, but sometimes they need a little extra support at their base to really get them going. Number two, they do get up to 50 feet, and so if you are limited in terms of height or where you want them to creep to, you'll have to prune them quite a bit because they're pretty vigorous in growth. And then number three, and this is not necessarily a con, it's just a consideration. Having any sort of vegetative material on your home is not really a great fire safe practice. Just thinking of all the wildfires recently, but I'm pretty sure you can find a beautiful spot somewhere else in your yard or your garden to have this beautiful plant. Now, this tree may not look like much right now. It's just waking up, but this tree is so precious. It is a small ornamental tree called a golden ball lead tree, and it has these beautiful yellow little puff balls, very unique type of flower throughout the spring and summer and even into fall. It is a deciduous tree, so you can see it's just putting on its new growth. But I think this is native to the Edwards Plateau, needs very, very good drainage to truly thrive. It might reach a height of about 15 feet to 20 feet. But it does need, I think I've heard it needs some degree of sheltering from heavy winds because the branches are or can be pretty fragile. But this is probably one of my favorite things in my garden. So I am stepping out of my front door here, and I'm going to take you to this landscaped area, which was all grass this time last year. And so this was about a 1,300 square foot lawn reduction. That area lawn was just not doing well. And so I replaced it with as many drought tolerant plants as I could. I kept my selection pretty small in terms of plants. I've got, you can kind of see three main different plants here. So here I've got dwarf yaupon holly. And this is a small mounding evergreen shrub. It's native to Texas. Gets about 4 by 4 feet in height and spread. Here I have a red autumn sage, and these get by 3 by 3 feet, also evergreen. And this is Mexican feathergrass. And even though, I mean, you can kind of see they kind of get that dormant brown color in the winter. I mean, all three of these plants offered seasonal interest all through the winter. But I got them established in October because trying to put a lot of this stuff in late spring sometimes just makes it harder to get established. It's certainly not impossible, just a bit harder. So wanted to kind of walk you through it so you can kind of see those plants. Got a bit of a meandering pathway here. If you're interested in seeing how I did this, I do have a video that I'll link in the description box that kind of shows you step by step. And here is what I'm super excited about. You guys see all those bluebonnets? So I on purpose sowed these bluebonnets, I think it was about October or so. With bluebonnets, you might be tempted to think that you sow these in the spring, but like many of our Texas wildflowers, you actually sow these in the fall. And you'll notice within a few days to a few weeks, the little seed leaves start to pop up as the seeds germinate. And then they set their rosettes, and then from there they really work to establish their root system all through the winter. And I do have a short on this, on how to do it and what to consider. I'll make sure I link that in the description box. Now let me take you on the other side. Now I sowed these seeds at the same time, treated them exactly the same, and this is what I'm left with. So definitely not the same response as the other side. I don't know. This is west side and that is southwest side, and so maybe that is why these haven't quite done as well, but sometimes that's just how it is. Taking a walk around the corner, you can see I've got a couple of other plants here. I just put these in. These are a type of salvia, and they had this really pretty burgundy stem. I mean, they're gonna be beautiful when they flower, but I usually cut these off. I know that seems like you really don't want to do it, but I cut off the flowers when I install them in the ground, and that really just allows the plant to establish a little bit better without focusing on, you know, keeping that flower stem going. I sometimes even will prune back some of the foliage just to let the plant work on root establishment. So walking here toward the edge of this mulched bed, I have this little guy here, and it doesn't look like much now, but this is a Zexmenia, and if you follow this channel at all, many of you know this is one of my favorite plants. Very drought tolerant, beautiful yellow blooms. And so I'm so excited to see this hopefully kind of reach over the top of that wall and maybe even cascade onto the other side, which is a rock garden. Now you might be like, well, why don't you just make this all mulch? Well, can you guys see this sort of sloped curve, and then that culvert at the end? So this is a high water runoff area. So the mulch would have just been washed out because we get some pretty big rains here in the spring and in the fall. So I stuck with this so that way I can retain the rock. I can retain quite a bit easier. And I really just have a few select plants in here. Here you can see red yucca, and the one in the back in my backyard is flowering, but these may not. This is their first spring in the ground, so they may just sort of still be working on establishing their roots, or they may surprise me. I don't know. But these remained green all through the winter, so there was that seasonal interest. This is a blue palette yucca, and I had a series of 3 here, but that one's dead. And then I have a series of 3 on the other side, and these are they're evergreen, like many, if not all, yuccas, and they do flower once established in the spring, but they do stay fairly low growing, about 2 feet in height, kind of a clumping type yucca. Very spiky, so you know, like a lot of yuccas, if you have them close to any walkway, you might kind of get poked, but I hope these make it. So here I have a grouping of 3, and then another grouping of 3 right skullcap. And I have this in my backyard, and it's just performed so well for me. And so I decided to put it on repeat, and these did overwinter just fine. I didn't cover these at all, and we did have some cold snaps into the teens. So, but these will flower this beautiful purple flower once they really start getting going here, and they'll stay about 1 to 2 feet in height and spread. There's that grouping of those blue palette yucca. And then here is a Wales 10 agave. And so I did have to cover this one time. I was just a little bit nervous. These are cold hardy down to 10 degrees Fahrenheit, but it got down into the teens and it was kind of wet. So I just covered it just to be safe. And then I just added these in the spring. Here's a little grouping of Blackfoot daisies. And so look at those sweet little daisies. And you might be thinking, like, this seems like a pretty harsh spot for them, but they love rocky, well-drained soil, and so I'm hoping these really take off here. So I'm gonna walk you over here, and here is my Texas mountain laurel, and I have searched high and low for any blooms. They really should be blooming right now, but I have only got one flower cluster. You guys see that? Now listen. Oh, no, I just spotted another, guys. Look, I see another one down there. So, you know, there's some theories. Maybe we just had that cold snap, and it just got the flower, the buds or whatever. But I'm just excited. This is an evergreen shrub, but you can train it like a small tree, and it can do pretty well in a tight space. But though this is really kind of spread in here, so I'm just gonna let it do its thing. I just put this in the fall. All right, we are gonna start on this end of the garden. And here is a white autumn sage, and you can see sort of where I pruned this back to just 12 days ago, and check out all that new vigorous growth. And that's the benefit of pruning many of your perennials, is you really do tend to get a denser plant. It's currently the 22nd of March at the filming of this, so it is not too late if you still want to get after some pruning. I've got a video that discusses some techniques with that. I'll be sure to link that in the description box. This is a rock rose, also pruned about 12 days ago, and it's coming along nicely. Along here, you can see this sort of ground cover. Well, I'm treating it like a ground cover. This is wine cup. And let me zoom in on a flower here, and you can kind of see it's also got a bit of an aphid situation going on. And to be honest with you, as a gardener, I have learned that sometimes you just let some of that be so that you can draw in your beneficial insects. So if it decimates the plant, or the plant really starts looking like it's struggling, I might get in here and see if I can just spray these down or something. But really, I'm just hoping the ladybugs come and hang out. But this is a beautiful evergreen ground cover that you can see shoots off these these tall flower stalks. And I'm hoping for it to just cover this whole area, so that maybe I can quit mulching this area for weed suppression and water retention, and instead just have this beautiful flowering ground cover, and something that even offers greenery through the winter instead. So that's my plan. We'll see how it goes. So coming along, the redbuds here, Texas redbud and forest pansy. In between them, I have just some dwarf yaupon holly. Sorry for all that sun glare there. And so they're doing well. And then like the never-ending spring pruning brush pile just keeps multiplying. Then I've got lots of perennials just coming out of dormancy in here. This was a Chinese pistache. It still exists, and it's still struggling, but it was really a sick tree. And some of these, I believe this is considered actually an invasive tree for our area. So I decided to go ahead and remove it. I probably will not replace this tree until the fall. So along this area, I don't know, let me do this. I had a bed that stopped right about here, and it kind of curved a little bit toward the end of that walkway, but I decided to remove even more lawn, about 230 square feet, and go ahead and extend that and replace it with some drought tolerant plants. And so this first one here that I have got is Mexican buckeye, and this is a early flowering shrub to small tree. You can see some of its blooms here, and I'm hoping that that'll fill this space nicely. I think it gets maybe up to about 15 to 20 feet, and so I hope I've given it enough room, because as you can see, my spacing struggle is real. Coming along here, I've got these 3 sunshine ligustrum, and these are not Texas natives, and ligustrum in general are usually not great plants for anywhere, because they can be invasive in many areas, but these are sterile, right? So birds can't take their seeds and deposit it all over other habitats and crowd out native species. So it's something I've learned as a gardener that I do need to be, or I do try to be mindful of, that whatever I'm putting in my garden is not going to destroy the ecology outside of my garden. So I am trying to be more mindful, and it's quite a learning process. And so certainly not here to lecture, but if I can inform you and that helps you make a better choice, well, that's my goal. And so these are kind of ecologically neutral, I think, because they're not invasive, they're not a native, they don't really offer any nectar sources. But from an aesthetic goal, I have got, these are more mature sunshine ligustrum, and let me kind of scooch over here. I mean, these for the most part stayed, had foliage all through the winter, but they are just, I mean, that yellow with no flowers, it's just such a showstopper. So you get that, that nice pop of color, and I kind of wanted some degree of repetition on this side, so I stuck with that sunshine ligustrum for that reason. Coming around here, I've got some indigo spires, salvia, and I feel like in a Texas garden, most things that say sage or salvia are probably going to be able to really do pretty decent as long as you get them established well. And so these have like these beautiful deep indigo spires, and I thought, wow, you know, they're opposite. Purplish blue and yellow are kind of opposite on the color wheel, and they really look good together. So I thought that maybe that would just be a pretty combination. We'll see how it ends up. So I've got another one there and another one there, and then here I've got something called Artemisia, and Artemisia is really just, I mean, the texture is so interesting, and I think some of these flower, I'm not sure, but there's a lot of size variation amongst this, and I don't know if I got the 6-foot one or the 2-foot one, because I did not pay attention, but we'll just see what happens. And I'm hoping I got the 2-foot one. I've got a couple of them here, and they can just kind of fill in those areas there, like almost like a ground cover. And then along here, I've got another Santolina, and I put this in just a few weeks ago. It's looking pretty leggy, right? These are more established Santolinas. I've got one here. You see how nice and dense that is, and I'm just obsessed with this texture on this plant. And these actually flower. I've got another one down there. And so I thought I'd kind of carry that theme to here, and we'll see how that goes. I also added another Jerusalem sage. Here is my more established Jerusalem sage. I think this is its first spring in the ground. I think I put it in the fall. I can't remember, but it's pretty happy. But this one I just put in a few weeks ago. And then coming around here, this is fragrant mistflower. This was put in the fall. Doesn't look like much now, but I'm gonna tell you guys, it smells amazing, and the butterflies absolutely love it. And so I got a couple of 4-inch mistflowers, and I stuck them in there too. And I've heard a lot of different things about how big these get. I don't have a lot of personal experience, but I think somewhere between the 2 to 4 foot height and spread. If you are super familiar with fragrant mistflower and you've grown it, let me know what size your mature mistflower is. But the other thing I would tell you is I love some instant gratification. So a lot of these I did buy in like 1 gallon nursery pots, but there is nothing wrong with just getting a little 4-inch nursery plant, because to be honest with you, some of these younger plants they will root better. They'll just adapt to that transplant into the ground much better. So save yourself some money, and if you can just be a little bit more patient, generally those 4 inches will catch up to the gallons, and they'll just probably be even healthier for it, to be honest with you. So just a little food for thought there. As I'm coming around here, these are all poppies, and these are from my friend Jean. She has these beautiful poppy plants in the spring, and she was kind enough to give me some seeds, and so I threw those down in the fall, and they were coming up before some of our cold snaps and then kind of died down. But if you see them, I mean, they look almost like a weed, but they're not. So if you lay seeds like this down, you might want to put a little tag, because you're like, is it a weed or is it a wildflower? I don't know. Here, and I've got these scattered throughout my yard. This is a carrot, and I just planted them, I think in the fall, or in the winter, because Jo, she's got a YouTube channel. She has this beautiful, beautiful spring garden. I mean, it's really beautiful all year, but she has these carrots just grow these airy stems and flowers, and they're just lovely. And so I took her advice and I scattered some through my yard, and we'll see how it goes. And then here, this is standing cypress, and this is a Texas native wildflower, and it's kind of interesting because you sow it and then it takes like a year or two to sort of to come around a flower. And so I can't remember if these are truly like a biennial or a perennial, but I will look it up and I will put it at the bottom of the screen. And then you can just sort of see some things waking up along the back there, and coming along here through this walkway. You can I want to orient you here. So I just removed this stretch of grass too, so I connected these two beds here. I've got another carrot there, and then another Texas kidneywood, and then here I've got lots and lots of larkspur. And so these are so fun when they flower, and they reseed quite readily. Matter of fact, I have been plucking them out everywhere I don't want them, but they're a real fun flower to have. I have another rock rose there, another lantana, and then here I've got a purple cone flower coming up out of dormancy, and I have another one there. And I will say, with my cone flowers, if they can get afternoon shade, I feel like I've just done better with them than having them out in the full sun. So these are the first two that I've been able to make it, that have made it through a full growing season. So I think they're pretty good in this spot. The other thing I will tell you about perennials is they sort of follow this crawl, walk, run. So the first season you have them in, they'll just kind of be crawling, trying to get established. That second growing season, they tend to kind of get a lot bigger and start performing a bit better. But that third season, they are at a sprint. And so a lot of the plants that I have in this bed are now in their, I think, third growing season. So I'm seeing them come out of dormancy quicker. I'm just seeing them I can see that they're going to be probably quite a bit bigger than they were last year, and that's fine by me. So speaking of which, I have got some Mealy blue sage here, and I mean, they have really just done a lot of growing in the past 12 days since pruning. If you watch my pruning video, and you can see all these little volunteers, they have reseeded themselves several times over. And that's fine by me. So I initially installed 1, 2, 3 plants, but I've got several volunteers. And so I am learning. I am probably more of a structured bed gardener. So I like things to sort of look tidy and orderly. But if a plant that is doing well is reseeding itself in an area, I'm not going to fight that. I'm just going to go with the flow, because that's just less work for me, less input that I need in terms of water or resources. And so that is the other thing I have learned, to kind of roll with the punches. So this is one of my favorite garden tools, and this is a root slayer shovel. I think they have different shovel sizes, but this is the perennial version. And this shovel is primarily meant for, obviously, digging up plants, cutting through their roots. And so when you look at it, you can see that there is a cutting surface here, and there is serrated edges here. And so, you know, transferring plants, or maybe digging up an old tree stump, a reasonable size, of course, but this is helpful. But I have used it for so many other things besides that. If you have watched my channel at all, you know that I've really been working on lawn reduction. And so sometimes for these smaller 1 to 200 square foot landscape beds I'm putting in, I will just remove that sod by hand, and this is what I use. And that narrow profile allows me to get through my clay soil so much easier than using a wide profile regular shovel. And those serrated edges kind of help cut through. And so I have really found this an invaluable tool. I'll be sure to link this in my description box in case you might be interested. All right, guys, it is happening. Lots of things waking up. Spring has sprung, and I am excited to take you on the journey that is my garden. Until the next one, y'all take care.